Now let's discuss the same situation from another side. Sometimes your opponent tries to exchange your fianchettoed bishop. What should you do in this case? Here black played bishop h3. This idea is quite okay for black. The white's g2 bishop is very active, it's putting pressure on the black's queen side, and that's why black is trying to exchange it. So again, what should you do when you're playing white and your opponent is trying to trade your fianchettoed bishop? There is a general rule which states that you need to put your pawns, mainly your central pawns, on the color of your exchanged bishop. That's why in this position white played e4. This is a pretty powerful idea and it has a few strong reasons. The first reason is that when you place your pawns on the same color as your exchanged bishop, this covers the weaknesses around your king. In the future white also can play f3, and therefore you prevent an eventual attack of your opponent. The second reason is that you make your remaining bishop very active, because since you place your pawns on the light squares, your dark square bishop will have a lot of free space. And the final reason is that you keep your opponent's remaining bishop passive. Now you fix his pawns on the dark squares, and therefore his dark squared bishop will be very passive during the whole game. Okay, let's make a few next moves. Bishop takes, g6, h4. White is keep realizing his plan. He's going to play h5 and put one more pawn on the light square. Bishop g7, h5, g5, and after knight d5, white got a stable advantage. Of course, black has no attacking chances on the king side, and in the future white will just use all the weaknesses in the black's position and will continue his attack on the queen side. In this position, black just played queen d7 and probably he is preparing bishop h3 move. How should white react? What do you think? Actually, you know the answer already. When your opponent is trying to exchange your fianchettoed bishop, you should place your pawns on the color of this exchanged bishop. Therefore, white should place his pawns on the light squares. He played f3, bishop h3, then d5, taking the knight, and b3. Black took on the g2, and though black realized his idea and exchanged the white's light squared bishop, the white's position became much better. After the next couple of moves, e6, rook c1, and an exchange on the d5, white has a stable advantage because of the black's weaknesses and the white's more active position. Bishop f4, then white played rook d1, knight c3, and white won the game afterwards. Please take note of the fact that the white's king is in safety and black has no attacking chances at all. Here white is attacking the black's center while black is trying to counterplay on the king side. Black just played bishop h3, so he is trying to weaken the white's king position. Also black has the semi-open f-file and his knight f6 can jump forward somehow. Therefore it looks like black really has some counterplay. Now let's think about the white's position and what should white do here. Black is going to exchange the white's fianchettoed bishop, and we already know the solution. White needs to put his pawns on the light squares. Thus white can play f3, maybe e4 in the future, and this should stop the black's attack and give white a good position. Moreover, in the current position, white can do it with a tempo. White took on the d6, then after queen takes, bishop c5, queen d5 is the only move because black needs time to remove the rook, f3, rook e8 and e4. White realized his plan with the tempos and now has an excellent position. Queen e6, rook d1, a4, rook d6. White doubled rook on the d file and has a total domination, and therefore white won this game afterwards pretty easily. You see that white just realized the correct setup of his central pawns, and this neutralized the black's eventual attack at all. Okay, I just have told you a few main and quite important ideas about these type of positions, and now let's draw the conclusions. Here is the first and the main conclusion. Compare the bishop's activity before trading them. It's not important whether a bishop is fianchettoed or not. Make an exchange only when your bishop is less active than your opponent's one. This brings us to the next conclusion. A fianchettoed bishop can be a bad piece. This happens when central pawns are on the same color as the bishop. Of course, you should not exchange an opponent's bad bishop. This will not really weaken your opponent's king. If you increase your opponent's activity, it certainly can't favor your attack. The next conclusion. An exchange of a fianchettoed bishop is really effective when you can attack on a side line. I mean h or a file. Let's say your opponent castled kingside and has a fianchettoed bishop there. If you can develop an attack on the h file, then you should trade the g7 bishop. In this situation, it will be a really powerful idea. If your opponent traded your fianchettoed bishop, set your pawns on the color of an exchanged bishop. Mainly I'm referring to your central pawns here. This will cover your weak squares and increase the scope of your remaining bishop. These ideas are highly practical and you'll be able to implement them right away. Break your chess stereotypes and then break your opponents. Have a nice day. Goodbye.